Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, she,
Can you hear us now? Teresa, you're self-muted if you can unmute. Okay. Teresa, can you unmute just and say something, see if we can hear you? Hang on. Teresa, you're self-muted right now. Oh, you're trying, okay. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Perfect, Teresa. Okay, that's perfect.
Awesome.
So we want to make sure we could hear you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. I have 6:59, so I got another minute before we start. Sure. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, I do have 7 o'clock. Courtney says she can't hear us, but Teresa can hear us. So I don't know what Courtney's issue is. Yeah. All right. I hope my phone doesn't die. At home.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Courtney. We're just going to put you on speaker, okay?
All right, sounds good. I'll just watch you on my screen.
All right. You can see us, but you can't hear us. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the October 6th meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Join me in prayer. Dear Lord, we're meeting today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. And we thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Here.
Councilman Maragosa?
Here.
Councilman Godwinski?
Here.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Here.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Here. I just ask everyone to make sure their microphones are on, green lights, and that means it will work through the system. So we have a fairly light agenda. We're calling for a series of resolutions to hold a public hearing at our next board meeting regarding a series of assessment roles for sewer districts. But we do have one add-on at the end of that. And that add-on is for the issuance of a required permit for Sour Girls Wellness Boutique and their grand opening on Sunday, October 17th. And if you're here for that. So when we get to that, if you'd like to say a few words about the event, well, I'll call on you at that point. Thank you so much. And so with that, that's all I have for the add-on to the agenda. We'll start with town council reports. I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, just a couple of concerns that residents have expressed to me recently that I just wanted to share with the board. One was a resident over on Acorn and Woodhaven about drivers speeding on the road. And I'm sure when I indicated to residents that I would share these concerns, I'm sure that board members have heard them before. But obviously Acorn is kind of a thoroughfare in the Woodhaven neighborhood. I think the resident indicated at one point in time there was kind of one of the ticker things that kind of monitor how many people pass through and speeds and that sort of thing, and that went away without follow-up. So just something for to maybe look into. Also, continue to receive reports from residents over in the Barheight Road, Wagner Road area about activity on a property over there. They continue to express concerns that a property out over there is being used for illegal dumping. And I know that residents have reached out to board members on it. I know that at one point in time, I think Mr. Briscoe was out there. Maybe if he could possibly follow up or reach back out to the residents who have expressed concern with that. This is relatively something that's occurred relatively recently as far as the residents expressing concern to me, and I did just want to share that with the board. And that's all, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rosowski.
Yes, I have just a couple of things, but first I'd like to thank Councilman Godlewski for the information with regard to Acorn over in Woodhaven. I will make a note to ask it for it to be added to the agenda of the Traffic Safety Committee to see if they would be.
Just so I can, it already is.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
being handled.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
That's all right.
Thanks. So I had a couple things I just wanted to touch on. The first one is I just wanted to take a minute and talk about how proud I was to be able to attend the news conference where we announced the addition of 2 school resource officers, one to work with Scotia Glenville schools and the other to work with Burnt Hill schools within the town of Glenville. This has been a program that has been tried for over many, many years. And I think that it actually grows out of the strong DARE program that we had for 14 years with Officer Dunbar. Officer Dunbar, I think I only missed 3 graduations in all the time that he was in charge of that program. And it was obvious the interactions that he had with the kids and the way that he was able to motivate them to engage and talk about things. The benefit of having police officers in the schools at all ages. Chief Rinaldi wanted to do something like that for many years. He and I had a conversation about it, but we just couldn't find a way. And now with Chief Janik and his perseverance and his willingness to think outside the box, along with Supervisor Ketzley and both Superintendent McGrath and Superintendent Schwartz, it finally is going to come to fruition. And I think that, in a lot of ways, when you talk about policing in a community, when you want to have a positive impact in the community, starting with the kids when they're young is the best way to do that. They get to know the officers, they get to understand that, the police officers are there to help them and to be a support system for them and not just somebody to be fearful of when you get pulled over. There's great benefits to school resource officers, and I'm just very pleased that we're going to be able to finally bring that program into fruition. So I would like to thank Officer Dunbar too. He retired earlier this year. Thank him for his many years of service as our DARE officer. Like I said, I do believe that the benefits of the DARE program brought about this addition of these 2 SROs. So I also attended the town chiefs meeting last week. It seems like things are getting busier for the town fire departments. And I just wanted to say that, East Glenville had a fire a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately the resident that lived in that home, she did pass away. And I just wanted to publicly thank them for their professionalism and their compassion at the scene with each other and with neighbors. It was a very difficult situation for them, and they handled it along with the other departments that were there. They handled it as well as they could, and not every scene that they go to has a happy ending, and, you know, just keep them in your thoughts, because it's definitely not an easy, thing for them to endure. So that said, that's all I have.
Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the SRO as well in my report, but before I forget, the other important thing about that SRO was it was one of the recommendations that came out of our police reform committee. And that was what weighed heavily on me and on, I know, the chief, when we were trying to put the program together. We wanted to address that issue. So that was the other big driver at this particular juncture behind it. Councilman Martin.
Yeah, just briefly, I attended a meeting, the weekly staff meeting of the planning and economic development department on Wednesday, this time. And there are going to be some more code revisions discussed. The code revision committee is going to reconvene for the first time in a while this coming Tuesday. Melissa brought forth some ideas for us to look at, and we'll be briefing in more details of that as that comes further into focus. Typical of those meetings, we went through a regular agenda item before the planning commission and going board of appeals and what's going on with code enforcement. I just want to pause there and say, you know, thanks to Arnie and Jim Pangburn. They do a really good job. It's tough thing to do every day, and I think we're in a good position that we do have two excellent code enforcement officers there. I just want to recognize them for the record. And then next, we did receive a briefing on the emergency loan fund from the LBC treasurer, excuses, and 16 loans made. Half of them have been fully repaid. I think that is a really great testament to our business community, and it's really good to see such a healthy sign, you know, given the times we're still in and continue coming out of, but that's a really good, you know, sign for the local economy. And then the other half are nobody's in default. That's another good sign. So they're structuring a repayment plan for them. And the other thing I would note is that half of those loans were made to businesses in the village.
Yeah. The emergency loans.
Yes, the emergency loans. So it was a very inclusive program. I think very successful. And I'll keep you posted as we hear about the other half of those that are remaining to pay. And lastly, the LBC now with the payments coming in, they have over $200,000 available for loans for any businesses that might be operating the regular program that they administer. That's still available, and I just want to make sure that works out.
Great, thank you. Councilman Aragosa.
Just a brief, I thought that you guys forward today.
Supervisor Capola? Supervisor Capola? That's all right. Superintendent.
Superintendent Capola, during the rail crossing, we walked through, we hear a lot about that. One of the things, you know, the DOT has approved the project to get done, but something to get done, unfortunately, I think the rail goes, that spur of the railroad and sounds like it's probably also, there's the highway department, the new tanks that we put in at the highway garage. The streets that driving around and getting done. Lastly, on my agenda, 27th, so we met, and out of that meeting, they declared a negative declaration and procedure as to Firetown Solar LLC, which is the east and the western part of that. They declared against that. Both half of it, their only concern is maybe some sightline views coming from both roads. We may have to look at green.
Thank you. And just a point of clarification, the changing of hands between the rail companies is not the cause of the delay. The cause of the delay is that that project is a part of a much bigger project. It's part of the pedestrian walkway that is going from Freeman Bridge to Dutch Meadows. There's going to be a pedestrian arm there, and they're not going to fix that until the pedestrian arm's done. The pedestrian arm doesn't get done until the pedestrian path gets done, which is currently in design. So the cause of delay is simply the fact that the pedestrian path is being designed, and that's part of that project, not because anything was switched hands. Right. Right.
Any idea timeline as far as, because it is something that has come up.
Its timeline was we were supposed to be in the ground this past summer, but unfortunately, folks like National Grid and DOT have delayed that quite a bit. Everything's tied up in review there, and it's currently in design, but there's going to be some utility pole implications that need to be moved. So
Okay.
it's on their time frame, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I would say it's probably a in the ground spring event.
Okay.
Hopefully spring. That's the rail company. We couldn't do it, but they, I don't know if there's any magic fix that way that they can just like put, some material in there, but I don't think so. It is very bad. There's no question. We've all been over it.
Yeah.
But it's part of the project. All right, so we'll move on to privilege of the floor, which we have Jamie with this. Do you prefer to speak when the agenda comes up on it, or do you want to? Okay, probably when the agenda comes up, because then it's more kind of relevant. But I will open privilege of the floor. If anyone wishes to be heard on privilege of the floor, please raise your hand, both here in the room or virtually. Okay, Teresa, I see your hand is up. Let me, wait a minute. Okay, your microphone's open, Teresa.
Thank you. And it's audio, not video
We have just audio.
for me? Okay, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, Supervisor Ketzley and members of the board, to allow me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And thanks too for having a virtual option under the current COVID conditions. My name is Teresa Zabretsky, and I work for Capital District Tobacco-Free Communities. We're a program of St. Peter's Health Partners. We're funded by the New York State Department of Health for 3 primary goals. 1, to reduce tobacco use overall. Very importantly, to keep kids from ever starting. And also to protect people from exposure to secondhand smoke. And our catchment area is Albany, Rensselaer, and Schenectady counties. So I've been in this job for a long time. So I was actually here when the town of Glenville first adopted a smoke-free policy for Malwick and Indian Meadows parks back in 2010. And I believe Supervisor Ketzley, you were also here in 2010. And I'm pretty sure we provided signs that may still be up in your parks as well. But a lot has changed since 2010. Most notably, electronic cigarette use has proliferated, most notably among high school aged youth, prompting the US Surgeon General to pronounce it an epidemic, and also prompting the state of New York to end the sale of flavored e-cigs that had been so appealing to young people. And as you well know, in March of this year, New York State legalized the recreational use of marijuana, which advocates expect will reduce the negative impact of marijuana criminalization and give a boost to the local economy. But whatever the perceived or real benefits of e-cigarettes and decriminalization of marijuana may be, both of those developments really threaten to undermine the success of policies that protect people from unwanted and harmful exposure to secondhand smoke. The New York State law prohibits both marijuana and e-cigarette use in places where tobacco use is already prohibited. But that does not include municipal parks. In fact, it doesn't include any of your municipal property. And the benefits for prohibiting vaping of nicotine, as well as the smoking and vaping of cannabis, are largely the same kinds of benefits as we've realized for prohibiting tobacco use and smoking. Secondhand marijuana smoke and e-cig aerosols, whether being used for cannabis or nicotine, they contain hundreds of harmful chemicals and particulate matter similar to those that are found in secondhand smoke. And a lot of the chemicals include heavy metals, which have been deemed by the EPA as a Class A carcinogen, which is akin to asbestos. So we're talking about, serious chemicals and serious risks. But the benefits of prohibiting vaping and smoking aren't just for people who may be exposed to secondhand smoke, because pets, wildlife, and the environment benefit from those policies as well. Cigarette butts are the most littered item in the world. And the butts are toxic to animals, people, and the environment. They aren't biodegradable. And despite their harms, it's possible that e-cig waste may pose an even greater danger. And there's not even a very clearly identified stream for how to dispose of these devices and the pods used to hold liquid nicotine. How to dispose of them is really unclear. So the devices themselves, e-cigarettes, they contain lithium batteries, which can be fire hazards. The disposable devices and the pods that you can use in reusable devices, when those are littered, they contain remnants of very highly concentrated liquid nicotine, or THC, both of which pose a very significant danger, and they've become a significant litter problem in public spaces, and even particularly pre-pandemic in high school parking lots. So policies that restrict the use of all products which can be smoked and all products which can be vaped are clearly the most beneficial to public health. And
Teresa?
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I was simply saying that, parks are a valuable community resource always, and a treasured resource at that. And in the past year with COVID, they perhaps become an even more central part of people's daily lives. They give people a break from their own four walls, and they give people an option of how to gather with friends and family members in a safer environment than in their own homes. So we're in a position at Capital District Tobacco-Free Communities to be able to provide municipalities with examples of language that is being used both locally and statewide to encompass tobacco, e-cigarette, and marijuana use in shared public locations. We also still have the capacity through funding from the state of New York to provide free custom signage to help communicate whatever policy you might consider and adopt. And we provide additional support, information, technical assistance as needed. Again, all of our services are funded by the state of New York and are free to local governments. So I know this isn't time for a back and forth, so I'll send a follow-up email to all of you tomorrow, sort of summarizing this information, sharing some additional information, along with my contact information, because certainly we would welcome the opportunity to talk with you further, or to support any effort that you might take on to create even safer and healthier spaces for your residents to live and play. Thank you again for your time and attention this evening.
Thank you, Teresa. I do remember back in 2010, that was an important effort back then, and you're right. I think this board has expressed its interest in tightening some of these policies going forward, and we'll be dealing with a package of marijuana-related, smoking-related legislation probably sometime after Thanksgiving. And with the new law, obviously, if you allow smoking in your parks, that means you allow marijuana use in your parks. And so I think we'll be looking at that very intently in the coming few weeks or months.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've been in an email back and forth with Judy on this, Judy Reitmeyer, so tell her I said hello.
Will do. Good evening now.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to be heard at privilege of the floor? There's no one else on the webinar, there's no one else in the room, so I'm going to say it's safe to say no. Close the privilege of the floor. Move to supervisors' comments to the board. I don't have a lot tonight. I just want to review the budget, which was just released to each of you this past week in your mailboxes. It was delivered to the town clerk on September 30th pursuant to state law. And again, I want to say, just give the highlights of the budget and not spend too much time here because we'll have time at the public hearing and whatnot to talk more about it. As you all know by now, my budget provides a 3% tax cut for all residents, both village and town. This is the second year in a row that we're able to cut taxes for village residents. We know how hard it is and how much relief they need, and it was important to try to provide whatever help we could from the town to the village. But I'm proud that this is a tax cut for the entire town, including the village. We've also reduced our spending this year. For the second consecutive year in a row, spending has been reduced. We're able to provide these tax cuts while still adhering to the foundation of the past 12 years of paying down our debt, protecting our fund balance, and the philosophy of avoiding unnecessary borrowing has resulted in a reduction of total town debt from $23 million in 2010, as Teresa referenced earlier. 2010 seems to be an important year. But we're down to 10 million by the end of 2022. That's a reduction of almost 60% of debt. That's a critical component of how we're able to get to where we are. That doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen just on a whim or for a particular reason within a short period of time, but it happens because the board has taken a long, and the comptroller, a long view approach to budgeting and stayed consistent to and methodically marched towards fiscal responsibility. We reduced our debt, which means we lowered our interest payments and our burden, and we were able to use funds for other town services. The other key, as you all know, was protecting our fund balance. Three main funds, our savings account. From 2010 through 2020, we reduced the use of those fund balances from about $1.4 million to just $300,000. That's a reduction of 80%. And because of that, we've had reserves where we need reserves in order to make the investments in the town where we need to make them. We created capital reserves. I remember Jim Martin was a big proponent of this. Created capital reserves, capital debt reserves, retirement reserves, all sorts of things to deal with the capital improvements and all the other things that we needed to do to pay cash for. That's what helped us get into this situation. But there's been a lot of focus on the tax cut. I know a lot of people are happy about that, but I want to take a moment to say that there's more than just a tax cut here. We didn't just cut taxes and then cut services or had services suffer. This budget also allows us to make investments in our community. We partnered, as Councilman Rosdowski talked about, one of the big things is we partnered with the school districts to meet the needs of the school district and our youth in this town. And we help support our police officers. We will, in this budget, fund a school resource officer, as was talked about earlier, for each of the two school districts, Fern Hills and Scotia Glenville. This has been talked about for several years, and it took a while for the chief and I and the superintendents to figure out a way to make this work. And we're finally there, and I'm proud of that. We're adding two new police officers to the police force to backfill those positions. And although I know some people think the world started when they just got involved, but when I became supervisor, we only had 22. Now we have 26. So that's something I'm very proud of. We're growing our parks system. That's been a huge focus of ours. I want to thank Vicki for all of her work on the park system. That's grown in just your tenure from 3/4 of a job to maybe 2 jobs. So we really thank you for all your work on that. But the parks are growing. We have 2 new parks in my time here. This budget adds another park labor position. For the second straight year, we'll be adding another parks person. And again, the Parks Department has grown from 2 to 4.5 full-time employees. We're adding staff to our senior center, another place that needs more resources. This budget will put a part-timer into our senior center in the afternoons, bringing up 2 of our staff members, one Vicky and the other one Rob, a maintenance worker, to do other things that are important to do. We're increasing our staff here at Town Hall. This budget will increase the position from the deputy town clerk from part-time to full-time, and provide additional support for residents for park rentals to assist the tax receiver. We're investing in walkability. We're creating a pedestrian path at Melwick Park. This budget takes that into consideration. We're honoring our veterans. This park will fund $100,000 in new improvements to our brand new veterans park called Legacy Park. We're excited about that. We're providing more recreational opportunities for our youth and adding $5,000 back into the Scotia Glenville Youth Program to match the Burnt Hills Boston Lake Summer Program. And I have some news on that, talking to the village about how we can structure it so that it matches how the Burnt Hills program runs. The Burnt Hills program has been very successful. And I'm putting people together, and we're talking about how we can mirror that program so that Scotia Glenville can have the same type of youth program and do the same types of things. We're providing enhanced road paving for the 3rd year in a row, another additional $150,000 from our capital reserves to accelerate our highway paving schedule. That's huge. And again, that could not have been achieved if we didn't reduce our debt, protect our fund balance, and reduce our costs. But we got there because we took that methodical 12-year approach to getting there. We continue the restoration of the Yates Mansion, and this puts another $60,000 into the Yates Mansion to continue its restoration as we continue to find more grants for that project. I know, again, Jim Martin was a big proponent of this when he was on the board. Yates Mansion, we have to understand, is more than just a saving our history, which is valuable in itself. Yates Mansion is a strategic investment in a capital building that we badly need. And it's an investment in a building that's going to help us meet the needs of our storage and our history center, which our history center, if anyone wants to take a tour with me, I know I'd love to bring you through the history center and show you what situation that is in. The Yates Mansion replaces that. Now, what's particularly strategic about it is that buying a historic building actually opens up a whole bunch of grant opportunities that you wouldn't normally have for a typical building. So this helps us be able to meet a need to add space and to find other ways to fund it other than the taxpayer. It's actually a very smart investment and a very good way of making sure we're meeting our needs. And I think that was a good vision on the part of Councilman Martin, because I think Gina would also admit Councilman Martin pulled us there.
Well, he almost bought it, so.
Yeah.
And then his better half said, I don't think so.
But it was good. So I think it's a very fiscally strong budget. It meets a lot of objectives. It takes care of a lot of issues. I want to thank Jason Cuthbert, our comptroller, who has worked very hard on it. It's something that isn't easy every year, but it seems like it gets a little bit easier and easier each year because we've made all the hard decisions over the years. And Jason's been great to work with, and he's been very good in the process. And I want to thank you for that. So thank you. And other than that, I have nothing else. So I'll move on back to the agenda, and we'll start with, you know what we're going to do? I think let's give Jamie some relief here, and let's move the add-on up to the first one so we can get you out of here. You don't want to sit through sewer extensions. I can tell you that right now. We don't even want to do that. But so let's move, if no one objects, add-on resolution 1, authorizing the issuance of a required permit to Sour Girls Wellness Boutique for the grand opening on Sunday, October 17th, 2021 to the beginning. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. So as I just read, this is a brand new business in our town. Welcome and congratulations. I think Councilman Martin will talk to you about some of the loans and grants that we have available through some of our programs. But You are located in 443 Saratoga Road. I think it's known as the Points Plaza. You are looking to do an event Sunday, October 17th from 10 to 4. And this resolution would allow the town clerk to issue the permit. At this point, Jamie, would you like to say anything about your business or your event? Your doors are open, right? How's it going? Good.
What is your bit, what do you? Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, you should talk to Jim or Melissa. I don't know, have you talked to Melissa? You must have talked to Melissa Cherubino. No, we'll get you hooked up.
Jim's interested in yoga.
Yeah.
In the-
Hot yoga.
I just wanted to say I indicated before the meeting started, before you guys joined us, that I won the gift basket at the Glenville Funeral Home 100th anniversary celebration. So I'm very excited to stop in, kind of check out what you offer. I already kind of have an idea based on what was in the basket, and welcome to town. It's very nice to have you.
So we have a motion, we have a second, it's under consideration. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, congratulations, and I'm sure we'll all be stopping in probably to say hi that day. Oh, yeah, they reached out, yeah. Thank you so much. You're good? Well done. Have a good night. Okay, so now we go to the many exciting resolutions regarding extensions of the sewer district. So first one is schedule a public hearing Wednesday, October 20th, 7 o'clock to hear all persons interested in the proposed sewer district number 9 extension located at 6 Wilson Drive. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. I just kind of went through it.
Yeah, I
know,
don't think I need
Need
that.
any more than
Nope.
that? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, scheduling a public hearing for the same night and time, same place, to hear any objections which may be made to the assessment roll for sewer district number 1. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, to schedule a public hearing the same night, time, and place, which will hear any objections made to the assessment roll for sewer district number 2. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do I
it.
have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa? Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, I'm sorry, Courtney. I just realized I'm throwing my paper on my phone, which you're probably hearing.
Sure,
all
that
those
sounds
up.
great.
Okay, sorry. I was just like tossing it on the phone.
Wouldn't want to miss a minute of.
Yeah, you don't want to miss this. Resolution 10, scheduling a public hearing, same day, time, place, to hear any objections made for the assessment roll for sewer district number 9, including extension number 7. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa? Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 11, scheduling a public hearing for the same time, place, and date to hear any objections made to the assessment roll for water district number 11, including extensions 10 through 51 of the town of Glenville. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, as this is the last of these resolutions, I just, I know we kind of make light of these, but these are actually pretty important housekeeping resolutions for the water and sewer department. And you know, it seems dry, but they are important in the grand scheme of things in order for us to function in those sewer and water districts. Yes, they are, but it's okay. I just, you know, for residents that are listening, I just
Yeah,
want them to know.
a misnomer.
I know.
You know.
This is about giving residents of Glenville an opportunity about their.
Anything else? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough?
Yes,
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Now we're on to resolution 12, approving the minutes of the regular town board meeting held on September 15th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved in second. Any discussion?
As noted, Mr. Supervisor, this resolution seeks to approve the minutes from the September 15th board meeting. I would thank Ms. Davenport for putting those together for us.
Good job. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough?
yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. On to the last item, new business. I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
I had an idea, and I'll throw this out there. I don't think it's going to be, I hope it's not controversial, but we have Halloween coming up. I think we've typically set trick-or-treating hours from 4 to 8, even on weekends. This year it's on a Sunday. If this, I don't mean to cause a controversy at all with this, but I'm wondering if it might make sense to either broaden those hours or move them up a little bit, considering it's on a weekend as opposed to a weeknight. Maybe just something to look into, and that's all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Wozzowski.
I have nothing.
Councilman Martin.
I just want to make note, Jason here and you, Chris, about the budget. You got the tentative budget. This is nearing the end of the budget process. And I just want to remark on especially consolidation of the budget. You know, tax cut's one thing, but to do it with a reduction in the fund balance and expansion of services, both in terms of program and staff, is especially notable. And I just want to say I think it's a very solid budget. And I want to thank all the department heads who went, you know, put the work into doing this. I've been one of those people, you know, putting the numbers together to go through the process. I really think it's a solid budget, and congratulations to all who participated. I just wanted to go with that.
Thank you. Councilman Aragosa. Great. I have nothing either, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
A second. Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. Nobody left on the webinar.